Okay, so I hate to say such a thing, but I feel like I got too much model.
Talk to Conrad.
So I'm not seeing what the model is delivering you in terms of identifying restrictions. You're not using the general equilibrium aspect. You're not really using the summation. I kind of feel like what you've got at the core is you wish there were regressors like a sharp spatial thingy that you could look on either side of and be all, look at that. But you don't have that sharpness. So instead you're going to a model that tells you that there should be determining factors like X's that affect the location decision. So you don't need so much model. You just need kind of the right X's. So you're saying, well, land size is going to have a kind of a different effect when it's small than when it's big. That's just saying you want to have some function around the plot size. But you could do all this just with a straight up multinomial logit. And I think you'd be able to speak to dramatically more people.
Okay. And that's actually what we're doing. So because Colin is like, I don't want to wait 2 days for the results. Let's just run some parallel regressions. So it's like we've got the fancy model, and the fancy model is going to be at the final stage. That's what we're going to do. But then in the interim, we just do a bunch of reduced form regressions or multinomial logit, and we just see, because you can do a counterfactual in that sense too.
You can do a counterfactual. Yeah, you
layer.
can do a counterfactual without a formal model. Right?
Exactly.
You just have to believe in the variation in your regressors.
Yeah.
But
I think where we felt we need the model is to get something like small farms ahead of the frontier. You kind of need a model to give you that. Like you need a model to explain it. At least without a model, it wasn't clear to me why you would get that. You can just say it in words. They don't have anything to sell, so they don't care about being far away from markets. But that's where it helps, I think. But I agree with you.
All I'm saying is ideally you chuck model at a thing when you need over-identified restrictions. When you need extra restrictions, chuck model at it. And I'm not seeing that come from your model.
And on some level, I think this sort of relates to, it feels like it's going to come from left field. I actually really am intrigued by the modeling because I like your ability to apply counterfactuals. I think that this is, you hit on when you talk about this notion of there's all this writing about the frontier, there's this writing about the Indian Wars and about the Comanche and about the railroad coming. And as someone who grew up in sort of settler areas, when you mentioned like counties are too big, I'm like, he's got to do townships kind of thing. Because that's my history, that's an understanding I have of what that frontier looked like, and as the daughter of somebody who got a claim kind of thing, or a granddaughter or someone. So there's a lot in here that feels really familiar in settler history, and it makes me think one of the things that you might be doing that makes this more grabby, that makes you feel like all this model without any payoff, is confront some of our, I can't even say it's a right myth, right? Confront our frontier myths, right? In this data and say, people say X, let's see if that's true in the development of the frontier. Because finally have the fine-grained detail we're doing, and that makes it seem more exciting. I was just moving around, it's not the book that I thought of, my mother's best friend from college's girlfriend kind of thing, wrote a book called Proving Up in Gregory County kind of thing, and about the battle that they had. The kids were like, the oldest was 12 years old, to keep this claim, because the dad was off God knows where kind of thing, for 3 years on their own, trying to keep this claim chanting. But and they did prove up, nice end of the story. But there's a larger history out there in 2010 called Proving Up that it basically is a recitation of the myths. And you might want to take some of those on and say, we can actually test those and see what it was like.
Yeah.
And I think that makes the modeling more worth it in a sense of grabbing people into your paper and to talk about what the value of understanding the frontier is. I would also connect it to some contemporary speaking about the frontier. I mean, there's this whole modern theme of what the frontier is and the value of the frontier and stuff like that. And I'm not quite sure where this point is going, but I think that it relates to the contemporary search for resources and what pushing the frontier did for us ultimately as a nation. And do we have more benefit again pushing the frontier as a nation? And I put out there the notion that resource developers look at Indian land and say the only unexplored resource territory in America right now is on Indian land. And you could kind of crassly ask the question of, if we push the frontier again, would there be a benefit?
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll see by my later talk, I actually think that's a bad question to ask, but it's the kind of thing that you can get out of this that we wouldn't be able to get before.
Yeah. It's like, it might actually be possible that by having a convoluted model, you're getting that all the ingredients of the model enter in such nonlinear ways that you can then say your generated T0 allocation of land, relate that to long-run outcomes, control linearly for everything that goes in the model that might have long-run outcomes in itself, but because it enters the model so non-linearly, it might actually help you to unpack, like here's the settlement choice and here's all the stuff that went into it that could independently matter. So in that sense, it might buy you some identification.
That'd be fair.
Maybe. That'd be what?
I'll fight with you over lunch.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, let's find it out there.
So just a question, and I wonder if the data you have and the historical case that you're using can help us understand, for example, the determinants of conflict. So can you use this issue to understand, for example, why the clashes between the regional groups and the foreigners? You mentioned that there were some groups that tend to be more reactive and they were more aggressive. So is this just cultural issues? Is because of the extent of land grabbing? Is the way this land grabbing took place? Or it may happen because of the characteristics of the groups that were buying those lands?
That's true, yeah. So you can, a lot of the measures of warlikeness are just based on, this is the number of times they had conflict with the federal army, which is itself endogenous to the frontier, so you could turn the thing on its head and try to write an extension where you explain conflict.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think about conflict. Nowadays, there's a lot of conflict between not only North America, but in general, between Aboriginal populations and outsiders, call it the government, the central government, or foreign companies, trying to get a piece of those lands.
Yeah.
And sometimes that discussion is driven in terms of culture.
Yeah.
But it might be also driven, now with the extent just for pure economic reasons.
Right.
So it would be nice to see that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the conflict will be sort of resource-driven without land granting, like Black Hills Gold Rush in the Dakotas. No one is asking for land grants. It's just a bunch of prospectors digging around. But
in the frontier, you might have all that model, all these data might give you some instruments in terms of the extent of that expansion.
Yeah.
How aggressive that expansion happened.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's cut off, have a little lunch. Thank everybody for this morning.